Good day to all of you, and thank you for being here. My name is Robert Kelly. I am a graduate student at the University of Buffalo, going for my master's degree in Information Library Sciences. And today I have a presentation. It is titled Organizational Culture and Change Management in Public Libraries. For today, I will discuss how organizational culture affects a public library's ability to manage change, communicate effectively, support staff development, and collaborate across departments. My main argument is that public libraries adapt most successfully when culture, communication, and learning are aligned with mission and community need. Now, to begin, I want to explain why this topic matters in the first place. See, public libraries are constantly evolving. They experience internal changes, such as staffing shifts, new technologies, and leadership transitions, while also responding to external pressures, such as changing community needs, demographics, and the realities of funding, or lack thereof. And because of that, change management cannot just be a temporary issue. It is, and always will be, an ongoing responsibility. This makes the organizational culture especially important, because culture influences whether the change is accepted, resisted, or translated into improvement. You can find these descriptions from the American Library Association. Now, to understand that, it helps to define what organizational culture means in the public library setting. When we talk about organizational culture, we refer to the shared values, expectations, habits, and assumptions that shape the daily work life. Now, in a public library, this will include how a staff will communicate, how decisions are to be made, how a conflict is handled, and what people believe good service looks like. In simple terms, culture is often described as, well, how we do things here. So, culture in any form is not considered an abstract idea. It can become visible in everyday behavior, including with staff relationships and patron experience. Once culture is defined, the next question is what kinds of change public libraries actually will face. As mentioned in Evidence-Based Change Management by Dr. Rousseau in 2022, public libraries experience both internal and external change. Now, the internal change can include policy updates, new workflows, restructuring, leadership turnover, or the adoption of new technologies. Whereas external change can include demographic shifts, the changing patron expectations, economic pressures, and demands for greater accountability. These changes often happen simultaneously, which means that a library will need more than planning alone. A library will need a culture that supports adaptation. And this is why culture plays such a decisive role in whether change succeeds. Well, as discussed in the OCLC article, 3 People Factor Steps for Successful Change Management, we learned that one of the most important ideas in this presentation, and in any presentation, is that change is human before it can be technical. A library may introduce a new service model, system, or policy, but the success will depend on whether the staff understand it, the trust it, and feel supported through it. Trust will help reduce resistance, and transparency reduces uncertainty. Training builds confidence. So the culture does not simply accompany change, it actively shapes whether a change becomes sustainable. And one of the main ways culture shapes change is through communication. Now, as based on the descriptions from the ALA, communication inside the library should be continuous and reciprocal. Staff will need information, but they also need opportunities to ask questions, raise concerns, and understand the purpose behind change. Strong communication builds trust and reduces confusion. This is especially important in public libraries because staff roles are interconnected. If communication breaks down in one area, the effects are often felt across the organization. But communication in public libraries is not only internal. As discussed in the Public Libraries Online article from Project to Branch Integration and Sustainability, community-led work at Halifax Public Libraries, we find that public libraries are community institutions. So communication will also include how the library listens to and engages with patrons and the wider community. Communication should not just be limited to a promotion or one-way messaging. It needs to involve dialogue, relationship building, and responsiveness. A healthy organizational culture will support outward-facing communication by treating the community not only as an audience, but as a partner in shaping services. And this same principle of communication also appears in one of the most routine parts of library work: meetings, both with patrons and within the staff. As referenced in the Public Libraries Online article, A Fresh Approach to Job Rotation, we realize that meetings may seem routine, but they are actually one of the clearest expressions of organizational culture. A poorly run meeting can waste someone's time and reinforce the hierarchy, while an effective meeting can create clarity, invite participation, and reduce uncertainty. In times of change, meetings become especially important because they help staff and librarians alike understand priorities, ask questions, and connect decisions to their daily work. And in that sense, meetings are considered to be strategic tools. They're not just administrative habits. And another strategic tool for managing change is professional development. Again, referring to Dr. Rousseau's article, Evidence-Based Change Management, we come to find that professional development supports adaptability, and it helps staff feel more prepared for changing expectations. It should not be treated as something that is considered extra within the realm of the issue at hand. It is part of the infrastructure that allows libraries to respond to new technologies, evolving service priorities, and the needs of the community. When training is connected to the mission of the library and supported by its leadership, it strengthens both the individual confidence and organizational resilience. And in addition to professional development, successful change also depends on collaboration across the organization. Again, referring to ALA guidelines, interdepartmental collaboration is essential because a public library service is inherently interconnected. The public service, youth services, the outreach, management of collections and implementation of collections, the administration, and all the new technologies all affect one another. When departments operate in silos, communication weakens, and service among patrons and librarians and staff can become fragmented. But by contrast, cross-functional collaboration helps staff understand the larger system, helps them also to work toward shared goals, and improve the patron experience. Collaboration, then, has to be intentionally built into the culture of the library. Now that brings us to an important final question. How do we know whether change is actually working? Well, libraries need to assess not only whether a change was implemented, but whether it improved how the organization works and how it serves the public. Useful indicators will include staff trust, communication quality, collaboration across departments, patron feedback, and response for the community. The central takeaway from this presentation is that organizational culture is not separate from library service. It is the condition that determines whether change becomes disruption or improvement. Public libraries become more adaptive when they build cultures of trust, communication, learning, and collaboration. To summarize, organizational culture is the condition that determines whether change is experienced as disruption or translated into improvement. Well, I want to thank you for attending this presentation. The slide you're seeing will list the core sources that support the claims about leadership competencies, staff development, community engagement, communication, evidence-based change management, and public library practice examples. Once again, my thanks to all who have attended and who have listened.